The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone, to the K through 12 webinar. Glad to have you here. I'm Bob Hollis with the Mobius Network, and just providing a quick orientation to the GoToWebinar system. The webinar is being recorded and may be published on a public website, so if by chance you raise a hand and get called on and opened up, please be cautious of the words you use. All attendees are muted by default so that we don't have background noise interruptions. However, we do encourage questions. We love questions. So as you think of them, type them into the GoToWebinar control panel and click the send button. And I'll show you where to do that in just a moment. If you're having any technical difficulties, you can visit gotowebinar.com. I'm going to be occupied looking at the webinar, so I may not be able to respond to emails you might send to me. And then if you're unmuted during the webinar at any time, please do not use a speakerphone or it will create a lot of background noise. So if your panel seems to have disappeared, you can click the little orange box with the white arrow. That will open and close the panel, so it may have just shut. And then down here, you'll see a section for questions. So anytime you think of a question, just go ahead and enter it in there. We'll get that, and we may answer a few questions as we're going if it's directly related to what's being talked about at the time. But otherwise, we're going to leave plenty of time at the end to answer questions. And if by chance we run out of time and don't get them all, we can come back around and answer questions after the webinar. And just to let you know in advance, we're going to try something a little bit experimental to augment your experience and make it even better if we can. And that is we'll be sending out a link to a video towards the end that shows an example of the types of programs we're talking about today. So that might work well for you, it might not. We'll see how that goes. But if by chance it doesn't work, we'll follow up after the webinar as well with the link so that you can watch that video. And so with that, I will turn it over to Debbie Dawson, who's done an amazing job with her leadership of the K through 12 Council this year. And she will take over from here and give a nice orientation or introduction of our panelists today, Jenna Rohrpaugh. Thank you very much. And Debbie, I'll turn it over to you. And Jenna, I'll turn the screen over to you.
Great. Well, thanks, Bob, and thank you all for joining us. Just as a reminder, the CRRA K-12 Technical Council is part of CRRA. You do not have to be a member of CRRA to be part of the Technical Council, and these webinars are always free. So we encourage you, whenever you see an announcement, to share that with anybody that you think would be interested in learning about the information. We are really excited today to have Jenna Rohrpaugh with the City of Oceanside speaking. She works with the Oceanside Unified School District, and we'll be talking about their Zero Waste Schools initiative. Jenna has a degree in environmental economics from Humboldt State, and took some time off in between that and her future degree, which she went to UC San Diego and got her sustainability business practice certificate. And then of particular interest, she went through, in 2012, she went through the CRRA certification program, which is an active program within CRRA to give people more background in recycling and zero waste issues. So that's a really cool program, and they're revitalizing it right now and revamping it. So if you're at all interested in that kind of a certification program, I encourage you to look to CRRA. She has been with the City of Oceanside for 4 years, and I'm going to turn this over to Jenna so that she can talk to us about her program with Oceanside Unified School District. Jenna?
Well, thank you, Debbie, first of all, for inviting me to speak today. It's a program that is dear to my heart and something we're very proud of here at the city, especially when it comes to the partnership that we've formed with Oceanside Unified School District. So I'm really excited to be here and happy to share with any of you anything that we have to be able to further that kind of relationship with your school district and city. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit. Let me see if I can. There we go. I'm a little technically challenged, so you will have to just excuse me. But just a little about City of Oceanside and who we are. We're located in North San Diego County. We're the northernmost city in San Diego County, and we have 175,000 residents. We were the first city in San Diego to adopt a zero waste plan and formalize the zero waste goal of 75 to 90% by 2020. I'll tell you more about that later. But that shows that even with a conservative council, we are able to be very forward-thinking when it comes to the environment. And Oceanside Unified School District there's 23 schools in Oceanside Unified School District, and that is K through 12. So it is a medium-sized district with about 22,000 students. It fluctuates, especially with Camp Pendleton, because 3 of our schools are actually on Camp Pendleton, which is a big military base for those of you who aren't aware. So just a little bit about how this came about. In 2010, the City of Oceanside passed a zero waste resolution. So they made a formal commitment to then come up with a strategic plan of how to get to zero waste, 75 to 90% by 2020 is the goal. In 2011, at the same time, there was a pilot program being started at Palmquist Elementary. And that was an initiative to also get towards zero waste. It was a program that was developed to look at the whole school as an initiative, as a culture-changing program, rather than just having small recycling programs, but really to encompass the values of zero waste and really incorporate that into all aspects of the schools, and or all aspects of the culture of the school, which makes that a little different. In 2012, the strategic management plan was actually written. At that time, it was this pilot was becoming more visible in the community, and people were looking at, parents were seeing that this was making a big impact on this school, and other schools were wanting it, and it was taken notice by the city, and then they wrote the schools into the strategic management plan as a way of reaching those goals of zero waste. And then in 2012, the plan was adopted, and actually there were several students that were part of that pilot that actually showed up at the city council. Not only the City Council, but also the Integrated Waste Commission for the City of Oceanside to actually provide public comment on why they felt like it was necessary to have zero waste within our community. So that did pass with a 5-0 vote, which was very exciting. As I mentioned, the first in San Diego County. The same time, 2012, AB 341 also was enacted, which was the mandatory commercial recycling. Now, what was interesting about this was that prior in the mandate 939, which was back in 1989, schools were exempt from participating in recycling, although cities did need to reach the 50% recycling rate. Schools were not included, educational institutions were not included. In AB 341, they were included. They became commercial entities that were then required to recycle. So this was really able to fuel this school's initiative and really put a little weight behind it when it came to getting the district on board as a whole. So once these legislations were in place, the program, as I said, the initiative that was the Zero Waste campaign that was started as a pilot began to spread to other schools. Other schools wanted this program. The city wanted to be able to provide that, started partnering to make that happen. And then in 2013, it became a program that was actually funded and supported by the City of Oceanside, which was very exciting. So there were 3 more schools done in that year, implemented with this campaign during that year. And then in 2014, the district saw that this was really a movement, not only a movement that made sense for the students, it made sense for the district because we were showing cost savings along the way, which I'll get into in a little bit. And really driven by this environmental education that was really parents, students, staff saw as a wave of coming over California and probably all over the country, really. Environmental education and STEM education being really pushed as the future. So this fit right into what was happening. So in 2014, they actually became, Oceanside Unified School District became a first district in the nation to formally adopt zero waste as a goal with their resolution that was passed in January. And then we've taken, since then, we've implemented it since the very beginning. There's been 11 schools that have been implemented with this kind of zero waste education and campaign, this initiative. And we have taken a little break this semester. As most of you know, or hopefully most of you know, the state of California has passed AB 1826, which is the mandatory commercial organics recycling mandate. And we have taken a break to sort of take stock of where we're at with the program, work with nutrition services to kind of figure out what we'll need to move forward for the diversion of organics. Because as with AB 341, they are schools and educational institutions are also part of the mandate. So what is this program, or what is this initiative? This initiative is a systematic approach to the entire school and its community that surrounds it to change how they manage their resources, how they manage their waste, what's coming in, what's going out. And the way that that's done is a very systematic approach and really taking data along the way to not only build the program on, but also to see how it's going, to see how the success of the program is going and moving forward. So we've collected data along the way to really push this initiative forward and drive it more and more into the culture of each school and the culture of the district. So in the phase one, it's really important to, I'm just going to go over the 7 phases and sort of at each semester, because it takes a semester to implement at each institution. So the key is to get on board with the principal. I mean, we've got the district on board, now we have to get on board with the principal. And then all the other key players. And this is before anything starts. Excuse me. So before, in the very initial phases, you meet with the principal, go over, we have a white paper that we go over the program and all of the initial steps. They need to outline who their staff, their lead staff is going to be for the program, or for the implementation. For the custodian, the head custodian, so they understand what's happening, nutrition services, any noon duties, anyone that comes in contact with the students during their meal periods and during the course of the day. Then we take a school-wide audit, which is done over a 24-hour period. All the waste is actually weighed and measured over a 24-hour period. And that data is collected, and then the results are given to all of the staff, so they really understand this is the waste that you are creating at your school, and this is how we can change that, and this is how we need to change the inputs that are coming in and recycle the inputs going out as much as we can. And really reduce. I mean, that's a big portion of this. Then a presentation is given to all students in the classrooms. Depending on if it's an elementary school, it's done, obviously within their individual classrooms. If it's a middle school, it can be done through science. It really depends on the structure of those classes. We did it through PE classes at Oceanside High School because that seemed to be the one class that most people touched. So it's really dependent on the school and how they want to get that information to each student. But we do give a presentation to each student. And then once the staff, all those key players are identified, then they are all trained as well on how the program will work. So during the classroom education, they're also trained on what's recyclable, what's not recyclable, where to put the materials, and why is really important. So then once once the staff and green leadership teams are trained, which generally happen in the elementary schools. And this program, it says parent volunteers here. This program is really not based on parent volunteers. The success is not. However, if you do have parents that want to volunteer, then they're more than allowed. But really, it's a staff program. It's an institutionalized program for students and staff to run at the schools. Then once all of that is done, all of the infrastructure is in place. So we remove trash cans, which is huge. Most schools have way too many trash cans. So trash cans are removed. Infrastructure for recycling is placed directly next to all of the landfill infrastructure. When incorporating organics, we're going to make sure that all of the nutritional services have everything that they need. All administration have everything that they need, and it's all on a one-to-one basis. We actually, at that time, also changed the back-end services. So, and this is where the cost savings comes in, and we can look at that in a moment. But making sure that they have, most of these schools that when we come in are actually over-serviced in waste, landfill, and under-serviced in recycling. So we really drive at that point, once we see what they're generating, to get to a one-to-one ratio on the back-end services, which is where the cost savings comes in. So we make sure that everyone has one-to-one in the classrooms, administration, meal areas, as well as in the back end. That's all rolled. Then once everything is in place, infrastructure is in place, then the program begins. Everyone's been educated. They have all the infrastructure they need, and you begin the program. So it's that phase 1 through 5 is really important prior to even putting any recycling bins out or changing anything that they're already doing. So once that's all complete, then there's a 6 to 8 week time frame that we work out kinks, see what else needs to be done. Do they need a few more bins in this spot, or a little more education in that department? And then another complete audit is done. Another 24-hour audit is done to see how they're doing with their success of their program. A diversion rate is taken at that time. How are they contaminating their recycling? How much of their how much of the recycling are they not capturing is ending up in landfill? So that data is taken as well. And then, of course, the celebration, because we've seen much success with this type of approach. Most of the schools, I would say this is an average, because we have schools as low as 9% coming in, or almost 0% coming in to prior to implementation of this initiative. And then they shoot up to 65. Usually 65 is because they're not doing any composting at all. And we've seen schools as high as 75 because they're just ready to take on something like this. Everyone is ready by the time it's implemented. And it's done within one semester. And what we're seeing going back this semester, as I said, even to schools that were implemented in 2014, the culture is so significantly changed that we're seeing those results sustain themselves. And not to say that it's perfect, and there's still work to be done, but in general, the results are definitely sustaining themselves, which is exciting. So what are the benefits to OUSD? Well, because we have the zero waste plan in place, the zero waste strategic management plan, and because the schools are identified as a way of reaching those goals, because we have 23,000 students which go home to take this message home, we're reaching 100,000 people, 100,000 residents on average. So rather than putting out a pamphlet or having an ad somewhere, I mean, this money is very well spent through the budget, and we've been and for that reason, because of the success, we've been able to increase that budget each year. Now so in 2014 or 13-14, as you see, it was $20,000. It was a kind of a, let's see if we can get this going a little bit. It's increased steadily every year. Now 16-17 is going up to $80,000. Well, we have organics to implement everywhere, so that's going to be high infrastructure costs, and it's going to be working with all 23 schools at some point in their nutrition services. So we're really looking at a big change, which is why we were able to get that budget amount. So here, did you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard someone.
Not yet.
So, hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I felt like there was someone was talking. So just as an example, here's 14-15 cost savings. So these were the 3 schools that were pre-implementation, and then we were able to change their services, like I said, on the back end, and really reduce the amount of landfill significantly and increase their recycling, which the rate structure in Oceanside, and particularly for the school district, because they're not under a same franchise, although they use the same hauler, waste management, it really incentivizes recycling. So recycling is much less than it is for a landfill bin. So 1 time a week, 3-yard recycling is significantly less than 1 time a week, 3-yard landfill, just as an example. So these are the cost savings that you see across the board, and just from these 3 schools, you're looking at $17,000 a year. So upon full implementation, we're looking at $60,000 to $80,000 a year. So that's a significant cost savings for the district. So here's some of the benefits, more benefits to OUSD. So as we talked about, that environmental curriculum, Oceanside Unified has just adopted the Oceanside Promise, which is to promise that all of the students will be career or college ready by the time they graduate. Well, when you're looking at what type of jobs are there out there for the future, we're looking at new emerging technologies. We're looking at, lots of environmental solutions that need to be created, a lot of environmental jobs that are being created all the time, and they need to be ready for those. And what you're seeing to the right there, that's at the pilot school, and that is an aquaponics system that the 5th graders are now have designed, and they are each working in a module to not only test the pH level and figure out what the best way to grow these greens are, but they're selling these greens back to Oceanside Unified School District, and they're each learning how to market those. They're learning business skills, marketing skills, growing skills, all at the same time. So this is just one of the projects that's going on within this district. So they are very forward-thinking in that way. Also, compliance with the state and local mandates that we talked about. Not only do we have state mandates, the AB 341 and AB 1826, but the City of Oceanside also has a code, Chapter 13, which requires the separation of all recycling materials from municipal solid waste. So that also is another backing to the zero waste goals, the zero waste plan. These state mandates have tiered down approaches where not everyone needs to be compliant. Not everyone under a certain threshold needs to be compliant with those laws, but actually to reach our zero waste goals, we have this underlying city code that also requires that they separate recycling from municipal solid waste. So this helps them stay in compliance, the schools stay in compliance with all of those mandates.
Jenna, can I interrupt for a sec? We have a question. Someone asked what the tipping fees are for your city.
Well, the tipping fees are a little bit different for the school district than they are for our city. It's roughly half the cost in the city. It's a little bit different. I'm not sure I can share those.
Okay. Do you have a difference between tipping fee for food versus for regular waste versus food waste?
No, not at this point, but we will. We're working on that right now, and that's coming within the next year. So it will be significantly more expensive in what we're looking at for tipping fee for food than it will be for municipal solid waste, and it's about half the cost roughly half the cost for recycling than it is for municipal solid waste in the city.
Okay.
And I'm not sure I can share. I don't want to share the district's costs. I don't know if I should do that or not. So
okay.
I know it's even less for them. Let me put it that way. So more than half the cost. Just to get back to the benefits, it really does streamline these services. As we talked about, these schools are being over-serviced at a lot of times in some areas and under-serviced. They also have trash cans upon trash cans placed everywhere because they're in fear of litter. However, that's a lot of liners, and that's a lot of labor hours to change all of those cans. So especially when most of them are rarely full. So I think this is, we've gotten a lot of reports about from custodians that it is actually lessening their workload, especially when it comes to meal areas. And then because the part of the structure is to make the students responsible in the classrooms for recycling, they actually dump the recycling within the classrooms. So they're not adding, they're only dumping one trash can generally in the classrooms. So that's also, lessening their workload a bit. Also purchasing policies. I mean, we can get into some of the district policies that we've changed over time through this initiative in partnering and showing them the real data. But there's several purchasing policies that have been able to be changed through identified opportunities and gathering these. As we talked about earlier, the benefits to the city of Oceanside, school to home connection. They take what they learned at school and they're taking it home and they're telling their parents, you can't put that in the trash, you have to put that in the recycling. So you've got 23,000 students and staff equaling a $100,000 resident. Very, very productive program for the community. It also promotes community involvement. We have green leadership teams, like I mentioned, at all of the elementary schools. We have a function of that through the middle schools, and we're changing that a bit. That's one of the things that we're sort of revamping and looking at, and same with the high schools, and seeing how their functions should be a little different, more promotion rather than actual instruction, I guess should be the way to say that. And then it creates environmental stewardship throughout the city. So these kids are growing up. They're going to go get jobs. They're going to be in businesses throughout the city, and that's just going to promote sustainability more and more in our community. In fact, this initiative has been very successful, and we've been asked to speak at World Resources Forum, actually in Australia and Peru, as well as many other conferences throughout California about this partnership between OUSD and the city of Oceanside. So how did we get there? Well, as I said, the program was driven through students and staff and people sharing information, seeing what was going on out there, wanting this program and this initiative, wanting to have zero waste at their schools. And that led to some awards throughout the state. I think it's important to give recognition to the partner through OUSD for taking this sort of commitment, making a commitment really towards getting to zero waste for their community and for their students. So in California Resources and Recovery, they won the Outstanding School Waste Reduction Program in 2014, Resource Management Leadership Award from Green California Schools, and then the City of Oceanside actually gave a Certificate of Appreciation to the Superintendent and Board of OUSD for their partnership around that same time as everything was building. I think another way that we keep that partnership going is that constant line of communication. We work with Associate Superintendent for Business Services, and everything is run through the school, through the district prior to making any decisions. We make sure that they are on board with everything that's being done, and that it's really a partnership. It's really a decision that's going to be mutually beneficial for both entities. And we give the board frequent updates. We want to make sure that they're abreast of everything that's happening within the district as well. We talked a little bit about those zero waste policies and procedure changes. A couple of those to highlight would be that the spork packets and styrofoam trays were eliminated district-wide after showing that it was about what they were really causing, the problems that they were really causing as far as litter was concerned, how much of those spork packets were really being used. Styrofoam trays were 10% of their waste stream, and they were just a bad material. So just showing that was a positive change, and that could really save money in waste service costs and in procurement costs, really helped them make that decision rather than just being only the right thing for the environment. Excuse me, I get a drink of water. Also, we worked for a few years about figuring out how to really keep that open communication going, and where would best fit to work with, what committee would best fit to really incorporate zero waste, and that was the Wellness Committee. And I think that's not a surprise. I think most wellness committees work with environmental health. And so we were able to get a subcommittee of the a subcommittee of the Wellness Committee, which is the Zero Waste Subcommittee. And so we meet with those folks every other month, and then meet with the full Wellness Committee. It's about 3 times a year to really give an update about what's happening. And there's such a link between nutrition, such a link between mental health, all of the things, all of the initiatives and all the subgroups really work together simultaneously. So it's a great place to have that open dialogue and open communication. There's a union, no surprise, a union for custodial services and at OUSD, and there was a lot of talk about recycling really not being what they should be doing. And with a lot of talk and a lot of explaining that waste is waste, it's either going to go in this can or that can. We're going to do everything we can to make this a seamless transition. This is actually going to make your job easier. It's not going to make your job harder. And all we need for you to do is this: service the cafeteria, outdoor, and administrative areas of recycling. We've got the classrooms for the students. So it's really working with those teams and saying, you know, how can we make this work for everybody? And this was one of the triumphs, is to get the custodians to actually service those, and not the individual custodians. We have wonderful custodians. It's the custodial group on a whole, the district custodial group. So that was a really big triumph, and it was wonderful to work together with them and see that it was really going to be better for them, and then to hear that come out of their mouths a couple of years later and say, "This is making my job easier. We love this." So that's awesome. So what have our lessons learned over time? Well, like I said, understanding how each agency operates. I mean, the city is very different from the school district. They're completely different entities. They both have very different, although they're the same, well-being for the community and for students, they have very different priorities. But that doesn't mean you can't come to a way of getting to all those priorities at the same time, as long as you understand how everyone operates, and as long as you understand to be respectful of how those different entities operate. Also, with working within existing systems, you don't want to try to tell them they have to change everything they're doing, but how can what we're trying to get to work within what you're trying to get to, and what do we already have in place that can help us get there. I think another one is getting everyone on board for the initiative. I mean, everyone is part of Zero Waste. So, you know, it's not the students, it's not custodial staff, it's not the parents, it's everybody in the whole entire community. And one way of showing that was to Zero Waste and audit the administrative offices, make sure that they understood the initiative and they understood why we were doing it and they understood how to do it, and that it really was not that big of a shift. It's just a little bit of different in way of thinking, and making sure you have the materials in order to, you know, the education, the materials to put the right stuff in the right place, which leads us to simpler is better. You know, it's not really that hard. All we're talking about is making sure that people know what to recycle, people know what not to use, which is very important, and that people put the right stuff in the right place and not to get too bogged down with the details. So one of the things that we teach within this initiative is that if the plastic is squishy, put it in the landfill. If you can squish it in your hand, if it holds its shape, put it in the recycling. So it's not that they know 1 through 7 and what each one of those means. It's not that they know, you know, every type of paper grade. It's just that they're getting the right stuff in the right place. And then being realistic. It's not going to be perfect every time. But the better you get, the more positive you are, the more better your results are going to be over time. And the more you can reward and be excited about what they're doing and make these students and these schools leaders in the community, the better it's going to be. Communication and ongoing education. You know, that's that constant working with, it's going back this semester, it's working with the superintendent's office, it's working with nutritional services, it's working with, you know, custodial staff on a regular basis. Just making sure that all of the adjunct duty teachers and staff have that support that they need. So it's the Zero Waste focus group of the wellness, and then just keep revisiting to make sure that they're all, you know, part of the same big team. And one decision that we've made is to internalize our staffing, to really keep that consistent, that messaging consistent, and really make sure that we have a hold on what's happening at each of the schools. So we've worked with several consultants, and they've been wonderful, and we're now just internalizing our staff to make sure that we can move forward and keep that homogeneous type of message going. So moving forward, we're looking at big changes. Organics. Organics is a big change. We're going to be working. We've already started working with nutritional services staff. We've also already begun, you know, working with these re-auditing. We're re-auditing all of the schools that have already been, you know, on the Zero Waste Initiative, which is 11 out of 23, as we mentioned. In particular, we're looking at their food waste. We're looking at new bin system. We have a 2-bin system, sometimes 3-bin system right now, which is whether they're collecting organics or not. We need to have all schools collecting organics, and we need to have a streamlined way to collect those and store them and get them serviced, and that's what we're working on. Also working on with that green career pathways are a couple of pilot projects, possibly AD, possibly windrow composting. We're looking at all the different processing, new emerging technology that's coming out, and how we can support at the junior high and high school level those career pathways, and see what we can do to have some, you know, AD operators in the mix, and when they graduate. Just for example, I'm not saying we're going that way. Also, classroom training films, that reinforcement that we talked about, the ongoing reinforcement. We're having some kids throughout the district do some training videos. I mean, we have a lot of the schools have iPads, and who's better to talk about what they do and why they do it than the students. So these green leadership students are making some training videos that can then be shown in the classrooms at the beginning of the school year, or any time throughout the year where it would be appropriate to retrain students on how to just participate in the recycling that they have going at the school. And then incorporate zero waste into all the existing avenues. So we have rules ceremonies, and we have awards ceremonies, and we have all types of existing good, Friday assemblies and all different types of things. We want to make sure that zero waste and that message, that resource conservation message, is, and that recycling message, zero waste message, eat all your food message, all the way around, all the different messages that are incorporated within zero waste fit into those appropriately, and make sure that they're always resonated. So we're going to continue to push those forward and get some consistent messaging that we're looking at an infographic possibly to make sure that we have a consistent message throughout the district at all of the schools. And this is where we're going to try, this is really all I have. We're going to try something. This is where we're going to try something. Is it working?
We're not seeing it, Jenna. We're just seeing something just popped up, but I don't think it's going to play. I'll go ahead and
that's
send
because I'm going to skip this. Okay, wait a second. Let me go back. It was trying to play because it was supposed to play there. Oh, okay. So this is just my favorite quote. That this is one of those most important things we can do. Preparing our children to be good environmental citizens is some of the most important work any of us can do. It's work that will serve future generations and quite literally sustain our world. And that is why we do what we do. So there's my contact information. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you for listening. And I hope that was a good overview.
Thank you very much, Jenna. And Bob, we're going to, correct me if I'm wrong, but this entire presentation will be uploaded onto the CRRA K-12 Technical Council website, and we'll be able to put the link to the video in that, correct?
Correct, and I also just sent the link out to the entire audience. So any of you can check your chat box, and you'll have a link there that you can grab now and save, and then can watch it after the webinar concludes. And we will include it with the presentation on the website. It should be posted by Wednesday.
Great. I do want to tell you what the video is, just so we can. So the video, we took a different approach, and what we're always trying to do is link students to their behavior. So we live so close to the beach that really linking students' behavior to having clean waterways and enjoying our oceans and having a healthy ocean is really important. So we have a group in Oceanside, well, they're all over San Diego, but H2O Trash Patrol, and they took some of our students out, some of the high school students out on a paddleboard cleanup. What they do is they go on paddleboards and they clean up hard to clean up waterways. So you're really getting some of that litter. They're pulling out that litter that can't be normally cleaned up and ends up in the wrong places. So it was really getting their reactions to seeing that sort of litter and getting their feedback. So it was it's a pretty powerful little video. We're pretty proud of it.
Very cool. So I have two questions from the audience, Jenna, and one of them is, can you give, you talked about the plastics and how you instruct your students which ones go in recycling and which ones go in trash. So can you give an example of squishy versus hold shape so that our folks know?
Sure. You're looking at a plastic bag.
Like a Ziploc bag from home.
Yeah, a Ziploc bag from home, or any kind of film plastic. So liner plastic, any plastic that goes over. But really, we're talking about plastic wrap is what you mostly encounter. And plastic bags, single-use plastic bags. Those would be squishy plastics, including bubble wrap or other types of things. But those are the things that we're talking about. And then, applesauce containers, yogurt containers, water bottles, anything like that would be a holder-shaped plastic.
Got it. Thank you.
And we show examples when we're there.
Very cool. One of the other questions, and I liked this too, I particularly liked your statistic that shows you chose to put your money into school education so that they can take the message home versus running an ad or something. And I think that's a really great practice, because it's one of the things we always try to do at the Parton Council too, is reinforce the homeschool connection. But one of our folks wants to know, do you have any, not just that example, but do you have any documentation to support those kinds of statistics, the numbers that you've come up with for any of your presentation that you can share with the group?
Yeah, it's been anecdotal. I mean, you know, we hear it all the time. I think we've seen, you know, nothing we could absolutely say was because of the Homeschool Connection, but just the way that these communities are rallying around zero waste, where you wouldn't have seen it prior. I think that is huge, and then we hear it anecdotally constantly. You know, are you
the parent that their student, that parents say,
sure,
oh, my kid came home and taught me how to recycle.
Right, or they won't let me put this, you know, I'm getting yelled at constantly because I'm putting the wrong thing in the wrong place. Things like that.
Got it, good. So Janet Whited from San Diego Unified also wanted to add that they call squishy plastic, they also like chip bags and wrappers, like they come on granola bars, all of that I think you'd agree are squishy plastics.
Yes.
Yes. So Janet also wants to know how many staff help do your presentations to your students, meet with principals. So how many of you are there out there, Jenna, I think is what she's wanting to know. Are you a department of one or many?
Well, we have a department of 3. I'm the program coordinator for the schools. We have enlisted staff, consultants, as I mentioned, that have been very helpful. But generally it takes, it's usually about 2 staff. Let's put it that way. 2 staff per school.
You were very deliberate in the pace of the rollout of your program. I remember talking to you a couple of years ago, and you know, we were ready to help, and you're like, no, we don't want it because we don't want to go that fast. I mean, you were very deliberate, and is that because you wanted to just make sure you had the staff available to do the schools right?
No, I think what it is it's a deliberate change. I don't think you can change a culture overnight, and I think it's a deliberate, really it is, we're trying to create a culture change. That's at the base of this initiative, and I think it is really takes time, and I think that's, you know, that's pretty quick doing it I mean, for me that feels quick for a semester, because by the time you take the real world data, you know, show it to everyone, connect the students with their behavior, and then get to the putting out of the recycling bins and changing infrastructure. I mean, that's probably 8 weeks, an 8 week period, for 6 to 8 week period. And so that's like, I mean, you're changing a culture in a very short period of time. So you're inundating them with this initiative. So, I mean, that's just the approach. I mean, there's all kinds of approaches, but that's the approach that we've taken.
Got it. Okay, so Nancy Deming is the one who asked the question about documentation, and she has clarifying email text to me and says, I meant for documentation is the overview to the schools to reference, such as who does what in the classroom education activities. Do you have that kind of documentation?
Yeah, we have a white paper.
Oh, excellent. That's something you can share?
Absolutely. I'm in the middle of updating it. We've made a few changes, so I am in the middle of updating it, but I'm more than happy to share it. We have a white paper that goes over the steps and why we do each thing, and just so that the school knows what's going to happen and why we're doing it that way. As far as the documentation, did she want to know how the documentation is after or before?
Nancy, send me another email. Text, and then I'll know. But when the white paper's ready, is that something we can put on the CRRA website? Would you mind sharing that with us?
Not at all. I've shared it. We've shared it with several cities so far.
Nancy,
be more than happy to. But
anything that you have to share is helpful.
Oh yeah. Well, Nancy's got we have a baby of a program compared to the MC. But yes, I'm
still think
more,
you have
more
something there.
What?
So, and she still thinks you have something good to share. So Janet from San Diego
great.
also wants to know where are you considering taking school food waste once collected?
Well, it will be a myriad of different, as most people are probably looking at that. I mean, we're looking at, we have one of only 2 compost facilities within San Diego. However, although our compost facility is permitted to take food waste, that's a very tricky thing. And pre-consumer food waste is, as we know, much different than post-consumer food waste.
Right.
I think we're looking at definitely donation. It's huge. We're looking at that
so
first.
You're going to start with donation, like the Nancy even talked about a couple of
Yes.
minutes ago.
Yes, we're talking about donation first, and then we're talking about pre-consumer second. And then we're going to see, how can we reduce plate waste? That's always a quandary, how you can reduce the plate waste. And then I think we're looking at, a couple different options for that. One is possibly,
all of that
anaerobic digestion.
All of that's before you actually get to taking the student food waste.
Yeah, I mean, that's the worst of it. Right? I mean, really, that's the worst of it. It's the biggest volume.
It's the most unknown. It's the most uncertain.
And it's the biggest volume, really, is what we're seeing.
So Rod Cordova from City of Thousand Oaks is I know from having met with him recently that they're dealing with food waste on their end too. And so his question to me or to you is the programs are very similar, so he's curious about your organics implementation. Specifically, is your organics program up and running now? If so, are you collecting in carts, bagged or unbagged? Contamination issues, the organics facilities, all that stuff.
Okay, so no, we have no facility right now to take it to. So if they are collecting, it's generally 1 day a week, and they're doing it on site. They're doing either vermicomposting, or they're doing static composting, and some of it is being used within their gardens. However, some of it is just being used in the plants, because some of the gardens are selling back to the school district, and they can't use that compost on the food that is being sold back to the district. So gardens are getting more and more popular within this district, and they're trying to promote them as much as possible. There actually is a farm that is selling, and this is actually at the pilot school for Zero Waste Initiative, and that is they're producing for not only the community, but they're actually selling to some of the local restaurants, which is really exciting. So,
and again, this is be the pre-consumer, not the plate waste from kids.
Right.
Correct.
No, plate waste from kids is actually getting, at 1 day a week, is getting composted at some of the schools. Okay. We're looking at just because everything's in development, we're probably going to have some sort of anaerobic digestion as well as windrow composting combination, as well as these pilots that we talked about. So,
and what's your timeline for that, you think?
The pilots, we're ready to go. I think the district is probably going to, we would like to implement a little bit of it next year. However, I think the curriculum may not catch up until 17-18. So we're not sure. We're still looking at how much it can handle, where we're going to put it, what curriculum needs to be had, who needs to get trained, those types of things.
Okay, excellent. I don't see any more questions in front of me.
All right.
If anyone has one, send it to me quickly. In the meantime, I'm just going to thank Jenna so much for being here today. No, it was great. I appreciate that. Again, her presentation and the link to the video will be on the CRRA K-12 Technical Council website that Jill Buck and Bob have been working on updating. Our next conference call or webinar would be in May. I think we're going to skip that one, but June, I'm really excited. That's going to be on June 27th. Jill Santos with the City of Ventura has agreed to do a great presentation. I know that she's working very hard with Ventura Unified School District on a very comprehensive program, much like Jenna, but similar issues, but different solutions. So we're really excited about that. So yeah, please put that on your calendar. That'll be Monday, June 27th, 4 o'clock. And again, please encourage anyone from schools, your other waste professionals to attend these because it is free and it's a great resource. I think that's it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.